Welcome. We are back for our last installment of the Culinary Hotline, and we really have been making the ultimate fake-away recipes. And earlier we made some sticky wings that were just crazy, and we made them in the air fryer, and they were great. And the ultimate, and I'm going to call it the ultimate cheeseburger, but we saved the best for last. I promised you the crescendo, the showstopper. It's a saucy meatball sub. And I called him one of my favorite chefs. Stroan Henry is now my favorite chef. Boom, done, okay? And he is going to be doing something today. It's simple, but it's mind-blowing.
This is going to be great. Also, there's a Chef Clem that he said the same thing too. So I'm just letting you know that there's a bit of a...
No, but I mean it to you.
Okay.
I actually mean it to you.
I'm the top Clem. I'm the top Clem.
So how do we get this going, Stroan?
So we start with the meatball.
Again, it's the purest, hey? The meat.
Yeah. Everything comes down to the meat.
Like everybody's got their own thing. Some people's meatballs turn out to be like just round fricadelles.
Yeah.
Others like adding that parmesan into that hard cheese into the meatball. What's your vibe?
I love extra flavors in my meatballs, like completely opposite of the burger patties.
The burger patty.
Okay.
So we want some binder, which is our egg and our breadcrumb. That's just going to keep the meatball together. It's not going to break apart.
Nice.
And then again, some onion for some bite. You can go in with fresh herbs, garlic. The world's really oyster when it comes to a meatball.
And I suppose you can express yourself through your meatballs. You know, you want to be able to do that. So, are we getting it now? I'm starting to feel the gangster element here.
What is the gangster?
I am, and I'm like the least gangster guy on the planet. And I try, man. I try to be hardcore, but I just don't have it.
I don't think I'm very gangster myself, to be honest with you.
The food.
The coarse gangster, bro.
Exactly.
That's the vibe.
So for me, you are a coarse gangster if you ever intimidated one of your younger cousins to fetch you food at the family function. That's what a coarse gangster is to me.
That's like every family function.
Yeah, exactly.
It's always that, but there's always an uncle that does that. An uncle will turn you into like that person.
So he's the coarse gangster of the family.
Yes.
So you get the drunkle and the coarse gangster overlap. Okay, that often happens, and that's
yes, because the drunk will send you to get the drink, the coarse gangster sends you to get the food. There's a good balance there.
100%.
All right, so that's all bound and nice as well. That meatball recipe is super simple. You know,
Very easy.
Sometimes you know what I do? I add parmesan into that thing because there's something about it, like the way the melting point hits it, and but
it just gives it a deeper flavor.
You know, I was going to say it's a layer of flavor that continues right the way through.
Because we do have cheese on the final product, but the mozzarella is not the most flavorful cheese.
For sure.
So a parmesan or something like that in the meatball really does help with the overall flavor of the dish.
Okay.
What's the right kind of consistency here? If it's a little bit too wet, how do you dry it? What are you aiming for?
So you're trying to actually kind of emulsify the meat a little bit. So you're trying to work the sausage, the fat into the...
Sure, so you're giving it quite a working over.
You want it close to sausage consistency, basically.
Okay. And I think that's great,
if it's too wet, you do a little more breadcrumbs. Too dry, you add maybe more egg. It's, you can really play it, but yeah.
Hit and miss, man, hit and miss. But you start to get a sense of what you like.
Exactly.
Nice liberal dollop of oil.
Yeah. We want nice oil so that we can get good sear on the meatballs. Everything is basically done in one pan.
Because I suppose the joy here, if you're working with a good meat and you've got the lovely... for me, the cooking is just about rendering the fat ready.
True.
So, you know, it doesn't need to... You don't have to sacrifice the quality of the meat for the flavor. And I suppose like a red meat... You want the sear, you want to see it in the flavor, yeah?
What a lot of people do, what I also do personally, is I like a mixture between beef and pork in my meatballs. If you've got pork in your meatball, you do want to cook it all the way through. But if it's beef, just beef like this, you can get a nice hard sear on the outside, and you want a little bit of pink in the middle of the meatball.
Just a little bit of that, yeah, man. I mean, I eat steak tartare, so I'm not shy of a little bit of pink, but I do love the idea of developing flavors, and especially with the simpler, where there's less room to hide.
It's a few ingredients, so every step of the way you need to do the right thing.
I need to ask you this, all right? 2 questions. Number 1 is, in this version, how do you know it's ready? How do you know you're ready to go? Because, I mean, obviously you can't see in the middle.
Colour and smell.
Okay, colour and smell.
And also, you feel it, if it's tightened up, that's when you know
Give it a little pat, just that.
Yeah.
And then my second one is, do you think you can do it in air fry? Because, I mean, that's like the big conversation.
100%.
Okay.
So
can you do that?
Yeah, 100%. This recipe is focused on the pan mainly, but the meatballs can be done separately, and then you can make your sauce in the pan.
Wow.
Wow, okay.
But searing the meatball in the pan and using the same pan to make the sauce also adds another layer of flavor to the final product.
And I mean,
True. I love that.
you know, some people are sort of phobic to red meat, and I mean, you also get the sort of the white meat minces as well. Do you think it will work the same in the same?
It won't be the same, definitely not.
It's not gangster, bro.
Yeah.
Is it not gangster with the
White meat
No,
ain't
that's what
gangster,
I'm
bro.
actually speaking on behalf of. Like, sometimes the red meaters are not going to be there, and they're like, hey, can you do it this way? And I just because I know you get the chicken mince, you know, you get that as well.
It's gonna produce a drier end product, but it will work. It just won't be exactly the same.
It won't be the same. Okay.
Strong
At least you
putting
can
out
try.
the challenge, man. If you can do it differently,
100%.
do it better, do
Okay.
it then, okay? And
Oh, look at
don't be a coarse gangster and send someone else to go and do it for you.
So
Do you see that?
that color is what we're looking for on both
I
sides.
hear you.
So we take it out of the pan.
Because this obviously then it gives it a bit of substance, a bit of backbone, so it's going to hold its structure
So obviously the meatballs aren't done cooking,
fully,
Okay.
but yeah, we get the vibe.
but we're starting the sauce in the pan.
And in the same pan, because you want to get all of that flavor from the
100%.
meatballs.
Because you've got all
Oh,
the
man.
fats from the meat in
Yeah.
there, exactly.
So just give your garlic a little bit of color. You don't want to burn it. They say there are two ways of making a good tomato-based sauce.
Okay.
Okay.
It's either you cook it for a really long time, like 2 to 4 hours,
Okay.
or you cook it for a short time,
For nips.
2 to 5 minutes.
Okay.
And I feel like this is the quick version because I can see that the pan is.
Well, it's the
going.
TV version, baby, so that's how we do it. But I suppose you kind of want a bit of caramelization going on in there. There's lots of sugars in the...
Exactly.
You know, the
So
tomato and the
the
garlic.
theory with the short version is you cooking it short quickly is preserving the natural sweetness of the tomato.
Boom.
And then the long way is amplifying the sweetness.
Sure.
So you're going to end up with a much sweeter product if you cook it for longer and caramelize all the sugars in the tomato.
Speaking of the air fryer, I've been doing that to make my kids' pasta. It's just a few tomatoes, a few onion, bit of garlic in the air fryer, and just roast it off 20 minutes, blend it. Boom, absolutely beautiful.
And they get all their veggies in, and it's super healthy, but then also all those flavors are going in as well. That's brilliant.
So the meatballs are just finished off in the sauce,
in the sauce. Booyah.
and then we can build.
Okay,
so how do we build?
Building. All right, so we got about 2 minutes to get this build right.
Okay.
Strone,
Bob
you
the
are the course
builder.
gangster, so you need to just like, you know,
So
put us on the
this-
force.
The point of the sandwich is we want all of the layers to become one. So how you build it is completely up to you. Everything should like melt together and smudge together. So how you build it is up to you.
Let's go central with this then.
I'm thinking then we've got
What
to
are you
start
thinking?
with a bit of sauce and meatball, right? So you want that sauce to just absorb and melt
Okay.
into the roll. Hey, what do you think?
Oh, I completely agree. So
so-
you can put that onto, because obviously we want to get a bit of melt on it as well. And then we've got mozzarella.
Okay, so what do you reckon? Should we start with our meatballs?
I think the way you're doing it is the right way. I think that's the great thing about having recipes, fake away recipes, is that you are
in
I mean,
control.
Stone, do you agree with me? Like, everybody's going to have their own way. They're going to look at you, and sometimes they get a bit judgy, and they're like, oh, why are you doing meatballs like this? But your way is the right way.
But that's the funny thing. So with every takeaway, there's a little. I'm always like, oh, please, can you take this out and put some of that in? Okay, I do
one
that
of
every
those
time. Yeah,
customers.
I am that guy. I make fast food slow. Okay, I'm the slow food kind of a guy. So I bet you there are people like, oh, please, just make it at home, bro. But this way, you can do it. You can put a little bit more. Can put a little bit less. Oh,
Yeah, for me, making stuff at home is it's always going to be
my
better
word.
because you are in control of the ingredients you're using.
Just,
get that sauce on there. Get
Just
that
like,
sauce on there.
let's just...
And then we've got a absolutely beautiful. And I like the introduction of a little bit of the basil pesto.
Yeah, just for some
I'm
freshness.
seeing this basil pesto. Oh, that's nice. And then you've got also the continuation of the hard cheese
Yes.
flavors. You've got, wow, this is like
Mozzarella.
very, very Italian. And then we're going to pop these guys on there.
Yeah.
See, this is where we're going. And that melting point of the mozzarella is going to cover the meatballs. I'm salivating. I'm ready.
So from there we go into the oven
Yeah.
under the broiler, 2 minutes.
Let that
You want to
melt
see a little
down.
bit of color on your cheese, lots of melting, and ready to come out.
Dude,
Stone.
we love you, Guy. Thank you so much for bringing
Great being
your
here. Thank you, guys.
very clear love of what you do to our kitchen.
Appreciate it.
That was fantastic. Ooh.